All right, welcome in everybody to WCNC Charlotte's live draft talk show. We are talking Carolina Panthers, who have the 7th overall pick in tonight's first round. For now, we'll see what happens, and we're going to break it down. We've got a lot of great guests tonight. Let's start with our own Eugene Robinson, former Panthers safety, assistant coach for the state champion Charlotte Christian Knights, and co-host of Charlotte Today. Eugene's with us. John Ellis, who does great work at One Panther Place, and I think lives in a basement full of Panthers archives at this point. He's got everything to pull. And Julian Council, who just started a new blog. Don't worry, Julian. We'll have you shamelessly plug that all night. So we're going to be with you guys on all of our social media platforms, here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, probably a bunch of stuff I don't even know about. Of course, the WCNC Charlotte app. And we're going to live react with you as we all watch the first ever virtual NFL draft and see what new coach Matt Rule and his Panthers do at 7, or if they even pick at 7 at all. So I'm going to start with Eugene. Eugene, what do you like the Panthers to do with that 7th overall pick?
I'm sorry, was that to me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know what? I think defensively we've lost. The defensive line has KK Short was out last year. Now Terry Poe's gone, Kyle Love is gone, Brennan Butler's gone. There's a big, huge gap that's in that defensive. But the place I wouldn't go there first. The place I actually like is at linebacker. I really like Isaiah Simmons. When I watched him play at Clemson, and I watched how he had that little hybrid yards, maybe 2 yards from the middle linebacker, where he's not accounting in the blocking scheme, where he can make tackles all over the place. I really like that scheme. It plays well, and I think that a person like that, at middle linebacker, at safety, where you get not only the sacks, which you would get from the defensive line, but you get those interceptions and those forced fumbles. And so I think a pivotal player like Luke Kuechly and also Thomas Davis, where you get a player like that, I think it changes the complexity of the defense and changes the entire complexion of the defense.
All right, John, just what jumps out to you at the 7th overall pick, and who might be there? Who would you love the Panthers to take tonight?
Well, I'm a Jeff Okudah fan. That's the direction I'm leaning right now. He's a corner that can play man. He can travel. He can also play zone, and he's fierce in terms of run support. Needs to work on his tackling a little bit, but in terms of competitiveness on the edge and being able to take that side of the field away, I think that's something Carolina hasn't seen in a long time. If he's there at 7, that's the guy I go for. I'm a lot like Eugene. I don't know if I see Simmons necessarily as a linebacker or a safety at this point, but I think he's a dynamic playmaker for a Phil Snow defense. So if he's there at 7, that's another option. At this point, those are the 2 guys I'm looking at at 7. If one of those 2 gets snagged up by Detroit or by New York, perhaps, I'm not sure if I take Derek Brown at 7. I love the kid. But that's where you start to talk maybe trade back, and that's a very viable possibility for Carolina tonight, in my opinion.
Julian, I can always count on you for a contrarian opinion. So what do you have tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many obvious needs at all 3 levels of the defense, as both John and Eugene have brought up. I would say the best thing for the Panthers is probably trading out of 7 and seeing if they can acquire some more picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft, just considering that they do have needs in interior of the defensive line. Having a guy like Derek Brown to be next to KK Short would be great. But then that doesn't solve the issues that you have at linebacker. To hear Whitehead coming in, he can certainly fit in at middle linebacker, one of the outside positions. Certainly Shaq Thompson's best on the weak side. And in Jermaine Carter Jr., where does he fit in? It makes sense to try and get a linebacker like an Isaiah Simmons. Then in the secondary, I love Trey Boston. Glad he got paid. Glad he's back. He's been one of the most undervalued safeties in the NFL the last 3-4 years. But outside of Trey, I don't have a lot of confidence in Justin Burris at the other safety position. Don't have a ton of confidence in Dante Jackson for what we've seen with him the first couple seasons. He certainly has the talent. Just the question is he going to be coachable? So I don't know if he's ready to be a number 1 cornerback. So I think the number 1 position that they need to try and find would be a Jeff Okudah, but I doubt he's going to be there. It's hard to look at the Panthers and not take an Isaiah Simmons. He's sitting there because he's the embodiment of the positionless football that Matt Rule has been talking about. But really what's best for the organization is probably trying to trade out, get as many picks as you can acquire the first 3 rounds, and trying to fill all 3 levels of that defense. So come whenever the season starts, they can have 3 guys who can start right away and be contributors on that defense instead of just having 1 first-round guy and then trying to fill the rest of the holes of mid-round picks at linebacker or at cornerback or in the interior defensive line.
All right, and another question that everybody in Carolina seems to want to know the answer to, and even nationally don't know the answer to, is who makes the final call if there's some sort of tie for the first round pick? Is this Matt Rule's draft? Is this Marty Hurney's draft? John, I'll start with you.
Well, there's a lot of speculation, Nick, as you know. If you spend any time on Twitter and you've read some of the reporting through some of the Jordan Rodriguez, Joe Persons reporting for The Athletic, and others that have, sort of talked about the sometimes the disconnect. And we saw Charles Robinson from Yahoo reiterate that today, that there always seems to be, at least with this regime, some confusion as to who's pushing the button. And I think somebody has to be in that seat, whether it's Marty, Matt. To me, if you're going to pay Matt the big dollars, it's like the Bill Parcells saying, let him shop for the groceries. I think if Marty was here and Matt wasn't, you wouldn't have these Temple Baylor guys rolling in the door left and right, some of whom I think can play ball. So I would hope at this point Matt has a pretty firm say on who he wants, because at the end of the day, he and Phil Snow and Joe Brady are in charge of implementing the system and schematics for these guys. No disrespect to Marty Hurney. He's been here for a long time, but it's hard to know what his role is long-term, I think, with Carolina. So to me, I have no idea. I'm just speculating, but I would hope Matt has a pretty good handle on what's going on in that room right now.
Yeah, look, we know that there is some truth to the whole collaborative effort thing. I mean, these guys are running the same organization. They need to be on the same page, so I'd hope they would be. I'm just curious, and I'm in the camp that does think that, if it comes down to it, that Matt Rule is going to get to pick the potential, future of the franchise here. Obviously not the face of the franchise, that's Christian McCaffrey. Eugene, what do you think is going to be going on in that, I guess it's not a draft room, virtual draft room tonight? What's the dynamic going to be, do you think?
Matt Rule's is going to be his picks and things, but he has to work in concert with the general manager, because so many people go on the board and off the board that you don't know if a guy's going to fall. Matt Rule may have a guy, I want this guy right here to be my linebacker. That guy may not fall, and now you got a great safety or maybe a great receiver that falls in there. Now you have to make a decision. So I really believe it's going to be always in concert with the general manager, because don't forget, the general manager does so much of the scouting things that happen behind the scenes of evaluating all that personnel. There's a lot of things that happen to say, I want this guy, but you may not be able to get that guy. And so, yes, it's Matt Rule's decision, but it always works in concert with the scouting department and with the general manager.
Julian, what do you think is going on in there tonight?
Yeah, I mean, just think about Marty Hurney's been doing this for years now, and Matt Rule has spent 1 year in the NFL as the assistant offensive line coach with the Giants. So how much sway did he really have in that room? Yeah, looking at the contract, like John brought up, 7 years compared to 1 more year for Marty Hurney. So you would think that a guy who's going to be here for 7 more years at least, that's how long he's paid till, and compared to the guy with 1 year is going to have more of a say. I always go with the experience of Marty Hurney. And also Matt Rule has said, and he said on WFNZ last week, that Marty is going to have the last call. And he's also made it known that I'm here to coach the football team. Marty's here to do all the personnel decisions. So I think that they'll certainly be working hand in hand, like Eugene's talking about. I'd probably say that Marty Hurney has, the last say in terms of they're 50-50 on a guy, that Marty's going to be the guy who gets to get the nod on who they draft, just considering his experience. And also David Tepper, he's shown nothing but confidence in Marty Hurney since, everything kind of fell apart there midway last season in the fall. So if he didn't have any confidence in Marty Hurney as his general manager, then I doubt that he would still be here in the draft night making a decision at 7 and for the next 2 nights in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 5th, and 7th round.
Man, Roger Goodell's got a heck of a living room over there in New York City. I'm jealous. John,
yeah.
What can we expect? I mean, we can always expect unpredictability in the first round and then in the top 10 and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, does anybody really know what's going to happen tonight just because of all the uncertainty that's been going on in the world of the NFL?
In terms of the technical aspects, I don't think anybody knows. Anything can happen as far as the IT side. Now, as far as the football side, the first 2 picks, I think, are pretty set in stone in terms of Joe Burrow, Chase Young. Then it gets fun. You've got Washington getting Chase Young off the board, and then you've got a number of teams, New York, Detroit, Miami's talking about maybe trying to jump up a little bit, and they have the assets to do it. So it's going to be a bonanza, I think. I would think in that little middle wedge between 7 and 2. Now, maybe it'll just go down the line like we think, but that's where I think it gets interesting. And that's where I think a guy like Okudah, Simmons could fall to Carolina. And then you've got some options. If they don't, and you're stuck with, and I don't want to say stuck with, but if you have Derek Brown sitting in the face at 7, a very good defensive tackle, but may not be who they value at 7, then you might be seeing a trade back there. But yeah, it'd be an interesting first round.
Eugene, tell me more of your thoughts on Isaiah Simmons, because I think he's clearly the most intriguing prospect in this top 10 in terms of just what he is now and what he could be. I mean, this guy could be a linebacker that goes sideline to sideline, or he could be a ball hawking safety. What do you see him bringing to a team now, and what do you see him bringing to a team in 5 years?
He reminds me a lot of Thomas Davis when Thomas Davis first got here. And he was a safety who moved so well and was so ferocious, you could put him at linebacker and he'd knock a hole in your body. I watched this young man, Isaiah Simmons, and I was impressed with his ability. He reminds me of a true, strong.
We're going to come back to Eugene. John, what do you think about the versatility of Isaiah?
I think he's a safety. I think Eugene might speak to that better than me because he played the position, obviously, at a very high level. But to me, the eval I did on him, he's a safety that can play quarters. He can play in the box as a strong safety. He can run with tight ends. He can affect the game in terms of the running game in the box. Greg Cosell did a great breakdown on Isaiah. And one thing that he mentioned to keep in mind, he's big, but he's not necessarily physical enough to be a stack linebacker at this point. And I think Eugene's point is a fair one. The way Thomas Davis was used back in 2005, much like a joker position where he's, roaming the field in all sorts of spots, playing special teams as a gunner. I think you can put Isaiah, to me, right there at strong safety, right off the bat day one, and continue to develop him. But again, it's scheme specific. It depends on which particular defensive coordinator gets his hands on him and what their perspective is. I know there's a lot of debate right now around the league about where he would play. I think he's a safety.
Yeah,
I would move him to safety immediately. I would move him to safety immediately. That's where you can have the most impact. I mean, you can have a major impact at a strong position, and particularly when you got a guy like that who can do it all. Leroy Butler was that way. Leroy Butler, when I played with him in the Green Bay Packers, he can rush the passer, interceptions. He's a kicker, and so when you want to highlight a guy like that, and safety becomes a great niche for a person of that caliber, because you can make a lot of plays, and at safety, you of a game with big hits, with interceptions, with big sacks, you do it all, and we get the scheme for you. I don't really scheme for you as a defensive tackle, because guess what? You got offensive tackle in the center right in front of you.
Julian, how do you? I mean, I guess there's two ways of looking at Isaiah Simmons. Yes, he's position versatile, but also is there a position for him? How do you look at it?
I don't think it really matters. I mean, they play so much nickel nowadays in the NFL in such a pass-happy league that you can have him at either a linebacker spot or you can have him at safety like Eugene suggested they should do from day one. The main thing is he's going to be on the field. He can fly around. He can be in coverage. He can stop the run. He can go after the passer. The fact that he's so versatile, I don't really think it matters just trying to put him in one box. I think Phil Snow, whoever drafts him, should just be smart enough to look at this player, see what holes they have in their roster, and see where he can fit from that day one. And then throughout the process of the season, just based off of the matchups of who they're going up against week to week, find the right spot for him defensively, which is only going to make it more difficult for the other teams that are scouting against him on the offensive side, trying to figure out where exactly is Isaiah Simmons going to be fitting in this week. I think that just makes it so difficult for other teams to be able to scout him, especially for the Panthers. If he can be able all over the field and be in different positions, I don't think it really matters whether he's a safety or a linebacker. It's just all about the defensive coordinator and Phil Snow here in Carolina's case, just finding the right spot for him week in and week out.
Troy Polamalu.
There you go.
Yeah. Cam Chancellor, Derwin James. Those are two names that come to mind when I think of Simmons as well.
Would he be if he's available at 7? Is he a no? Who says he's a no-brainer there for the Panthers?
I want to say that. I want to say no-brainer. Like I've already come out and said that probably the best thing for the organization is to try and accumulate as many picks as possible, just because they they have they have 8 picks. They got the second pick in the 5th round after trading Kyle Allen to Washington Redskins, which that helps them out. But 5th round pick is probably not going to take you as far as you want to go in this rebuilding picture that they have here in Carolina. So I think as many picks as possible in the first 2 rounds would be great. But I just have a hard time if I sit there on the Carolina Panthers. I'm already hurting at Matt Rule. Especially Matt Rule, he's preached positionless football. You have so many needs there defensively, and the fact that he can play on all 3 levels makes him a guy. He said today, Isaiah Simmons said, like, you have 53 people on your roster. Draft me is like having 56 that can play so many positions. It'd be really hard if I'm the Carolina Panthers, if he's sitting there at 7 to not draft him. It would be really hard for me to sit there and do that. I would kind of call it a no-brainer, even though it's probably the smartest logistical thing is to try and acquire more picks. But that's a hell of a football player you're getting right there if you pick him at 7.
All right, let's reset here. You are watching WCNC Charlotte's live draft chat show. We're coming to you on our Facebook, YouTube pages, Twitch, Periscope on Twitter, and our WCNC Charlotte mobile app. You can chime in with your questions or comments as we react to the draft in real time, just like you do. The Panthers own the 7th overall pick. A lot is certainly going to happen from 1 through 6, and it's going to have a domino effect. Do we think that the first 2 picks are locked in as we look at the Bengals and Redskins Twitter accounts with our old friend Tahoe there? It's good to see he made it over there with Ron. Is it Burrow and Chase Young 1 and 2? Is that what we're looking at, guys?
Yeah. Yes.
I think so. No question.
No.
Go ahead, Eugene.
Players in that draft, no doubt about it.
John, what do you think about Joe Burrow to the Bengals?
Well, Burrow to me has tremendous upside. Again, quarterbacks early, it's one of those things where he has been locked into Cincinnati for almost 40 years, it seems now. So the evaluation on him has been, okay, he plays in a specific system that has an RPO-friendly type of atmosphere, and you've got a coach there with Zach Taylor who's looking to implement some of the same concepts. So I think schematically he'll fit right in with what they want to do. It's hard to know. I mean, it's really hard because you didn't see a lot of Joe Burrow on tape, but what you did see was tremendous. The ability to throw off platform comes to mind when I look at some of the tape on him. Now, he did play with a lot of talent. That's one of the things people bring up and say, hey, Joe Burrow played with a ton of talent. Will it translate? Well, a lot of guys go through that. So I think he'll transition just fine. How high is the ceiling? We'll have to see. But I think there's no question that they will do everything they can to fit the system to his strengths.
Yeah, and personally for me, I kind of have the same reservations with Joe Burrow as I have with Joe Brady. I mean, they're both kind of one-hit wonders. Now, Joe Brady, of course, being in New Orleans for those 2 seasons, learning out there under Sean Payton, who's one of the best offensive minds out there in football, gives me a little bit more confidence in him to come here to this level, especially with a quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater who's worked in that same system. But with Joe Burrow, his first year at LSU, he was fine. He fit them. They finally had a quarterback who wasn't turning the ball over, wasn't a liability. The Alabama game, I think back to 2 years ago, where they got shut out at home on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge, and he had a nicked up shoulder. And in the final 4 games of that season, he came out and played really well. And to do what he did last year, it was just night and day a different player. Was that all Joe Brady, or was that just Joe Burrow developing? I'm not really sure right now. Of course, we'll find out. And I don't have a ton of confidence in Zach Taylor and his ability to really be a schematic offensive play caller that's going to help Joe Burrow coming into the league for his first year. But I'm just really hard-pressed to think that a guy who really had one great college season is now going to be the number 1 overall pick and is going to have more success in Cincinnati than Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was a fine quarterback. He was never going to get them over the top and be able to win the division consistently when you have Ben Roethlisberger over there in Pittsburgh and then just being the AFC when there was Peyton Manning, when there was also Tom Brady in New England. He was a fine quarterback. They went to the playoffs, 6 years in a row? Are you ever going to see that success with Joe Burrow? Probably not. Not just based off his own talent. It's just also just based off it's a bad organization. So I really have a hard time trying to project how good he's going to be and believing that Joe Burrow really is that top quarterback. I still believe in my heart of hearts that when Tua Tagovailoa is healthy, he's far and away a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. Just the question is, will he be healthy? And we'll find out.
Quick note, Roger Goodell has been booed. The NFL draft is underway. This time it was done via Microsoft Teams. Good to see. Eugene, let's talk about Ron Rivera and the 2nd overall pick. I think we can all assume it's Chase Young, and that just seems like such a Ron Rivera guy, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got a guy who can come off the edge. And, I mean, when I watched that young man come off the edge, up, whether he has the speed rush, where he's going to dip under. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Freeney and Jonathan Abraham. He got that. He just got this knack of ability to get to the quarterback with speed, and he makes things happen. I think that Coach Rivera is chopping at the bit, saying, look, if I get a guy like that, you can always take a Julius Peppers type player, and that player will make plays. And if much from the defensive tackle spot, but also on that edge, and when you can hold the edge like he can hold the edge, that means you can stop the run and you can rush. And he has this great combination of knowing when to fire and what. That's an excellent pick for the Redskins, and that's right up Ron Rivera's alley, getting a major guy who can affect change right now.
All right, so we think that the first two picks are locked in. It looks like Joe Burrow's about to go to Cincinnati to start this thing off. John, where does this draft get weird?
Well, like we said, I think you look at Dave Gettleman and Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, what they want to do with those third and fourth picks. Again, there's some debate. I've seen some speculation from some good reporting that the Detroit situation is, okay, Bob Quinn really, really wants Isaiah Simmons. And on the other hand, Matt Patricia is a Derek Brown guy. So who knows if that's a smokescreen? Who knows if that's legit? And who knows who wins that power struggle if there is one? But depending on which direction they go there, and then New York sitting there with a number of needs, as you know, that's where it gets interesting to me. I think San Diego probably goes Herbert. That's my feeling on where they go. But again, you never know what happens with Tua. He may slide. They may take a stab at Tua. And then you got Cam Newton sitting out there. So there's a factor too. GMs have that in the back of their mind, I'm sure, during this process. Is Cam the guy they want to possibly bring in post-draft? And if not, they'll jump on those quarterbacks.
All right, Julian.
He mentioned about Tua Tagovailoa. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. When I watched that young man, and I watched him in the national championship, and how he kind of really took over, Patrick Mahomes. He just has this really knack of knowing how to throw the ball, when to throw the ball, when to run. Just a real good sense of awareness. And when you have that, that's what Patrick Mahomes does. And when you got a quarterback who knows how to scramble, when to throw the rock, you become so dangerous. And now you can move that offense forward. And so I think you're right. I think the business, and if he's healthy, which I think he will be healthy, I think it'll be a steal for anybody to pick him up right now.
I think, Eugene, to that point, too, just real quick, I think Tua is a rhythm and timing quarterback, too.
Yeah.
And the way he can rhythm and time out an RPO system goes a long way for a team. I hate to bring up Joe Brady, but again, if you look at scheme fit, and if he's sitting there at 7, again, not doing a hot take here, just saying that's a really good scheme fit. I thought the same thing, too. That's
Julian,
a really good scheme fit.
I thought the same thing, too. I'm like, yeah. You know? If I'm telling you, if he was there, I'm like, dude, that dude, he really is that good. And you change position, you change football games with a quarterback, you change it with a big time player who can affect change. And I'm talking about whether that's a lot of sacks, interceptions, that's your guy. And you got a quarterback like Tua. I don't know. I'm saying if he's sitting there, I would think very, very hard and go,
if he's sitting there,
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you got.
So the draft didn't start until Roger Goodell got booed. This live draft chat did not start until we started talking about Tua going that number 7 to the Panthers.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I tell you what, it'd be hard pressed to not to pick that young man. And I know you got Teddy Bridgewater, but I'm saying there's people who are special in the draft. He just seems to be special. And I'm just talking about from a guy as a free safety. Let me just put on my football hat.
Yeah.
I've covered so many quarterbacks and knowing the nuances of what quarterbacks. I study quarterbacks for a living. When I watched that man play and I first saw him, I said, he's going to take Jalen Hurts' job. Jalen Hurts will never get the job again. And he'll take him to the national championship. He'll affect change. He's just that good. He has that. He just has it.
He's incredible. And it's like, as just John talking about, he's like a rhythm thrower. I mean, he's always on target. Like those slants to Jerry Jeudy, who is one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. I mean, he was the number 1 guy coming out of high school, and Tua made him look even better. Like I still think Judy's an awesome player. The other guys like Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith, they all were elevated by Tua. And if he came here to Carolina, just looking at this young wide receiving core, we're still waiting for Curtis Samuel to break out. This is his final year of his contract, his rookie deal. We don't know if he's going to be able to finally break out and be that player that the Panthers drafted in the second round to compliment Cam Newton at the time, and also in that same draft, Christian McCaffrey when he went in the first round. We're still waiting for that. I think Tua puts him in a position where we finally see the Curtis Samuel that you wanted to see all along. Also, just with Joe Brady and his just thinking about how smart he is and putting him in certain positions offensively, his ingenuity, that would be really awesome. I would love to see Tua here. It's just one of those things where if that's the case, is the offensive line going to protect him? Because if Cam Newton was still on the roster right now, I wouldn't be talking about Derek Brown. I wouldn't be talking about. I think you got to rebuild the offensive line. Yeah, I'd be talking about offensive line, and that's what I was saying last year too. Well, everyone's like pass rush, which they addressed, but clearly it didn't get him far enough because they couldn't stop the run, and also the fact that the quarterback wasn't healthy and the offensive line was still atrocious. So I would love to have Tua at 7. Just the problem is I'm just concerned based off he's coming off of injuries, where if they can protect him. And also the Panthers just moved off a quarterback in Cam Newton who had his own injury history, but also was a guy who was an MVP. So I'd rather stay with the MVP who's going to be 30 opposed to the guy who's 21, 22, who's coming off of 2 tightrope surgeries in both ankles, a hip injury, which now has there's questions on if he's going to have any necrosis in that hip moving forward with blood flow. So I just doesn't make a lot of sense to me they would draft Tua but didn't get rid of Cam. But, hey, if they want to find their quarterback for the future instead of waiting until next year, and if they don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be that guy long-term, why not bring in Tua for this year, especially what we got going on with the global pandemic? Who knows when the season happens and starts? Tua might get a year to redshirt and kind of wait and be under the wings of Teddy Bridgewater, and then they can find a way to maybe move Teddy via trade next offseason to a team that's desperate for a quarterback.
Yeah. Dr. Julian Council. All right, so my favorite part about the Bengals setup is it looks immaculate, and they're just going to sit there for 10 minutes and submit the They could have waited another day.
Pick is in.
Okay, so they waited until about 2.5 minutes on the clock where the pick was going to be in, and then we know the Redskins are likely going to take Chase Young, and then it gets weird from there. And in terms of a trade out, for anybody at home that wouldn't understand why the Panthers would do that with the 7th overall pick, John, why don't you try to let us know what scenarios that would work for the Panthers and why Matt Rule specifically in his position might opt for that.
We had this debate on Twitter today, Nick, and a friend of mine, Billy Marshall, who does really good work on Twitter film and everything coverage. We had this debate and he called me out a little bit and he was exactly right. And he said, look, when you're looking to build long-term, one pick ain't going to do it. So in Carolina's case, don't draft for need. And I think drafting for need right now feels like a Derek Brown move. If they're sitting at 7 and they don't have to me, Okudah to me is not a need. He is the best player available right there at 7. He's not there. Isaiah Simmons not there. I'm not sure Brown's the BPA at 7. So that's where a lot of people have this, notion that maybe they should trade back to the middle of the teens if they can, accumulate another pick, maybe 2, who knows. And then there's a plethora of wide receivers available. And you can say, you got Robbie Anderson, you've got Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore. Not certain if that wide receiver room is quite as solid as we all think because Samuel's contract is coming up. Moore has developed nicely. Robbie has come in and hopefully he will fit right in with the scheme. But if you've got, a Jerry Jeudy, if you've got a CeeDee Lamb sitting right there, which Billy and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Very tempting to make that move because those are generational talents.
Yeah, I don't have confidence really in the entirety of this Panthers wide receiver core right now. DJ Moore stepped up, had a great year last year, and missed even having no Cam Newton, then the ups and downs of Kyle Allen and Will Grier at the end of the season in those 2 weeks, getting knocked out, of course, in week 17 against the Saints. I have faith in DJ Moore can be a solid number 2. Is he going to be a number 1 guy? I don't know. Steve Smith says he doesn't see him as number 1, and there's thoughts inside the building that he might not be number 1. Then maybe he's not a number 1, but I don't think it really matters. He goes out there, he makes enough plays. I don't know if he's the kind of impact guy that, on third down, for a fact that you can go to him, he's going to get open, and he's going to be able to make that big play. Curtis Samuel, injuries in his first year, that hindered him. Then the quarterback, the quarterback play of Cam Newton, great first half of 2018. Shoulder falls apart in the second half. I think that's kind of led to his lack of production. And last year, same thing with Kyle Allen, who was not as accurate as you would have needed a quarterback to be. And he's still a guy in Curtis Samuel who played more of a hybrid wide receiver running back position at Ohio State. He's still learning, the intricacies of the position. So I don't know whether he's a guy that you can really believe in going into year 4. Now, there's thoughts that he could have boom potential We just don't know yet. Robbie Anderson, great with the Jets, but more of a deep ball guy. He's only under contract really for just a year. So in terms of just longevity position, you have DJ Moore, who you think is going to be here for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Curtis Samuel, question mark. Robbie Anderson, question mark. And all the other Baylor and Temple guys they brought in this offseason, you have no idea how long they're going to be there. So a CeeDee Lamb, a Jerry Jeudy, it would be really good to have those dudes. When I look at that defense, I know it might be the Big 12 offensively in the NFC South, but you're going to have to be able to stop Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Matt Ryan at some point, and they got to figure something out defensively. Wide receiver just does not look like to me to be the number one need. If anything, it's probably their best position group, and I don't even think it's one of the top position groups in the NFL in terms of wide receivers.
All right, Eugene, I got a question for you. With the Panthers at a crossroads, in a transition, in a retool, whatever you want to call it, does that elevate the traits of, leadership, character that you want in your first round pick, that Matt Rule's going to want in his first round pick? Because this is somebody that could come right in, especially on defense, and really be looked at as a leader right away.
I mean, yes, you do. You want that, but don't forget you got that on. The reason why you get a Christian McCaffrey and you lock him up is because you like him as a locker room guy, and you know what he's able to go. He's done it. Most of that leadership that you're looking for, it normally comes in that veteran presence, not so much that guy who's going to be coming in a Shaq and just kind of feeling his way, because he's come in, you got so much, you're inundated with so much information, you're just trying to do your job because you got this added pressure on to look good and to be good. So you're not really a leader. You're looking for those guys in the locker room to be the leader, and that you're going to say, who can I go ahead and be mentored under? Who can disciple me? That's what you're looking to do. So I think it's a little bit more to come in, whether it's Isaiah Simmons, whether it's Brown. I want you to go ahead and just go off, and I want to put you in a position where you can go ahead and go off, that you get your confidence up, because if I'm building for the future, I know that you're one to build for the future, to take on that leadership role. Don't forget, Thomas Davis wasn't a leader immediately. He became a gradual leader. Same thing, Luke Kuechly. He became that gradual leader where you go, yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, and Luke was able – and Luke was able to take over one of those leadership roles alongside Cam Newton once Steve Smith was released and went on to Baltimore. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. We're seeing guys like Greg Olsen leave and seeing guys like Luke Kuechly retire, and then the Panthers moving on from Cam Newton. That's allowing Teddy Bridgewater to step in here and be a leader. That's allowing Christian McCaffrey to be a leader. Taylor Moton on the offensive line to be a leader. KK Short. Trey Boston being re-signed. He's one of the guys who's been here before, been to the Super Bowl with this team, was spending some years in San Diego or Los Angeles now, and in Arizona, and now he's come back. He's one of the veteran players. So it's their time. And Shaq Thompson, that time for those guys to become leaders. So whether it's Derek Brown and Jeff Okudah or Isaiah Simmons, whoever they bring in as rookies, they're not going to be expected to be leaders right away. They're going to try and learn from these guys who it's now their opportunity, and all the moves they've made concurrently this offseason allowed some of those guys to step up and finally be the face of the franchise and be in those leadership roles.
Well, and Eugene, you know this too, just real quickly, you saw like the transition from 2000, the George Seifert years where you played, into the John Fox era, and then the same in 2010 to the Ron Rivera era. This happens. Your core guys do get older, and they do end up moving on, whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, and a new breed does eventually develop and regenerate. And Carolina's been fortunate to have that for 3 generations now. And this group must do the same. I mean, Shaq and Trey Boston, and Dante Jackson, those guys, the onus is on them on the defense now. And then from your perspective, I know that you're keeping a close eye on that.
All right, so let's reset here real quick. Sorry, Eugene, I'll get to you. Jaden Johnson says, please, Panthers draft Isaiah Simmons. We've got Tepper. I guess he's got a pup in there in his war room. Ron Rivera's Redskins are about to make their pick at number 2. We already saw a little clip of Tahoe helping Coach Rivera out in Washington, and this should be Chase Young coming off the board to Washington. You are watching WCNC Charlotte's live NFL draft chat show, and we've got Julian Council, we've got John Ellis from One Panther Place, got former Panther Eugene Robinson. We're taking you through all the way to whenever the Panthers pick in the first round here live on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and our WCNC Charlotte app, and you can feel free to chime in and let us know your thoughts along the way. Eugene, looks like Ron Rivera is going to get his guy in Chase Young here at number 2. What are you seeing for Coach out there in Washington in year one?
Say that again.
What are you looking at? What do you think Ron Rivera's got going in Washington in his first year there? Obviously a quick hire after the Panthers let him go.
First, I think you got to take care of – I've always thought that the Redskins offense, I thought that it was always predicated upon their quarterback. Who was the quarterback? Where was the identity at? And when who left? Was the Cousins left? One of the guys left, and then you can see that thing fall apart. You got to have that quarterback, and so I think that's the very first place that he has to start. But defensively, they needed another player to go ahead and be like a Julius Peppers or somebody who was so dominant that you had to. He takes up all the air and all the oxygen. Now I don't think they have. I think they get that player. I think they get that player who takes up all the oxygen that you got to account for, who just wreaks havoc. And that allows you to play really good defense and put parts of, and put things together to get that chemistry. So I think that he has won. Coach Rivera, offensively, is always about your quarterback. It always is, quarterback-driven league. And secondly, defensively, you got to have players who look great on the bus. All right, they look great on the bus. I don't need you looking great on the bus. I need you to be able to go bust a grape out there on the field and make some plays.
That was a problem last year, Julian. I mean, Rivera's defense, it couldn't stop the run. He's got a new job. He's got a chance. What do you think of his shot out there?
Honestly, if I'm Ron Rivera and they're about to pick his in, we'll see it's going to be Chase Young very shortly. I'd be laughing if I'm him. I'd be cackling tonight because Joe Burrow, as we already talked about, he's been the number one pick for like 40 years, as John said. And I think there's a lot of question marks about whether he really can transition and be the best quarterback in his draft. I think all of us are in agreement that Tua Tagovailoa, when healthy, is the best quarterback in the draft. So Cincinnati just drafted who's probably the second best quarterback in his draft. Meanwhile, the Redskins at number 2 got far and away the best player in the NFL draft at an impact position off the edge. A dude who was unstoppable at Ohio State. Like last year, I get it. The Heisman Trophy is all about whoever the best quarterback is on the best team. Okay, it's a joke. The best player in college football last year was Chase Young, and he missed 2 games. Joe Burrow might have had one of the greatest offensive seasons that we'll ever see in college football. He had a ton of talent around him. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But as far as football goes, the impact that Chase Young's going to have in the NFL, I think is going to be far greater than the impact that Joe Burrow has. If I'm Ron Rivera, I am just laughing right now that I got Chase Young with the number 2 pick, and the Bengals bypassed that guy, who also, by the way, might not be from Ohio, but played at the Ohio State University. So they could have sold him as an Ohio guy as well.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to miss this opportunity is what you're saying, Julian.
Yeah, I think he's going to be amazing. And he's also a local kid there from the Maryland area that they can sell him marketing-wise, and just the fact that, hey, we have this monster coming off the edge to be one of the best hopefully one of the better Redskins defensive players that they've had, in a long time. And they need that up there. A lot of people, especially like in this area before the Panthers are here, a lot of people are Redskins fans. There's still some remnants of that in the Carolinas, and obviously heading up North 95 in Virginia and then into D.C., the DMV area. They got to get their fan base back. And you can have a hometown kid like a Chase Young become one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And Ron Rivera, who's a likable guy who's definitely going to make an impact in the community and who's a damn good football coach. That's huge for the Redskins. I think this is one of the better days that they've had in a long time, especially since Dan Snyder's been their owner for the last 20 years.
All right, John, I want to get to you on this with 3 minutes to go. Sorry, Eugene, I'll get right back to you. 3 minutes to go for the Lions. This is where things could say, it's hard to say fall the Panthers' way with the 7th overall pick, but what would you like to see start happening now based on what you want the Panthers to do at 7?
Well, again, I would like to see the Lions. If I'm the Panthers and I'm the GM, I'd like to see the Lions go for Derek Brown first. If they do that, then you still got Simmons potentially in play at 7 when you look at the board all the way down there. Secondarily, if they go for Simmons, which I think those are the 2 guys they're looking at heavily right now, besides Jeff Okudah, then you still got Okudah potentially in play right there at 7. However, they may go Jeff Okudah. That tends to be the general consensus among who they want based on their scheme fit and based on his talent level. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. But if Okudah slides now, the slide may come down to 7, and that's what most Panthers fans would want, I would think.
Eugene, what were you going to say before? I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, I was just talking about I was thinking about the fans having, when we're talking about Coach Rivera, actually having something to go ahead and be excited about. And having a pick like really excited about that pick. You know, if they would have had the draft in Las Vegas, the Redskins fans would be going crazy right now. They'll be clapping their hands. They would be chanting the whole. They'd be.
Yep.
Pick Chase Young. They would be going crazy and up in arms. And so, if we had the draft, it was in Las Vegas. You would get the feedback immediately from the fans, the Redskins fans. They would be going absolutely.
Absolutely. Great point, Eugene. Julian, what do you want to see the Lions do here if you're the Panthers? They're about to pick.
I guess I'd be like John. You probably want to see him take Derek Brown, even though in most mocks that you've seen, and again, they're just mocks. No one knows what's going to happen at 7 except for the people in that room right now with the Carolina Panthers, or I guess in separate rooms across Charlotte. Derek Brown is the main guy people have been mocking the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if that's to me. I think cornerback is the top need for this team defensively, and I would want to see Jeff Okudah not go to the Lions. So I'd probably want to see Derek Brown. Because if I'm choosing between those 3 guys that we talked about mainly tonight, Derek Brown, Jeff Okudah, Isaiah Simmons, I'm probably Okudah first, then Simmons, then Brown, just based off of need, even though Simmons might be the most versatile of the players. But I just don't have a ton of faith in that secondary as it's currently constructed right now on night 1 of the NFL draft. So if I'm a Panthers fan, I'd probably want to see Derek Brown go to the Detroit Lions, even though, I don't know.
And don't forget, we picked up Zach Kerr, too. Don't forget. So you picked up another big tackle. You got a big tackle. You get KK short back. So you got – if you got 2 bona fide tackles up there who can take up a lot of space, and now your guys on the edge become, really, really important. So – you can if the Lions pick up Brown, no, because I really think you got what you need in Kerr.
Well, there's Okudah.
They got Okudah.
Oh, well.
Okay. Now, John, how does this make you look? Now, does this open up trade avenues a little bit more?
I think we got to wait and see.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Miami. We'll see what Gettleman does. Because Gettleman is such a wild card when it comes to the draft tonight. Because is he going to go hog molly and go with Derek Brown at 4, or is he going to go with Isaiah Simmons to try and get some of that versatility? I don't think anyone has an idea what Dave Gettleman's ever thinking, period, but what he's going to do tonight in the draft. Because it kind of comes down to Dave Gettleman. He takes Derek Brown. That means Isaiah Simmons potentially could drop down to 7 with Miami probably looking at a quarterback at 5. And then same thing with Los Angeles, the Chargers looking at a quarterback at 6, probably Justin Herbert. Then that might be the best case scenario for the Panthers. You're probably hoping that Gettleman right here takes Derek Brown, which we just had basically the same conversation with the Lions. But I think the best case scenario now for the Carolina Panthers, if they're staying at 7, is that Derek Brown goes here.
Julian, can I throw this monkey rich at you? Didn't Gettleman pick Vernon Butler?
He did.
Yeah, so maybe he might be a little gun shy just a little bit because he work out as well as he thought he would. I know he's in love with the hog mollies, but maybe he might just back away from that a little bit and have a little bit pause. I'm just saying.
That's a good
Gettleman, John, one sec. I mean, Gettleman or the Lions until like this afternoon we're going to take Okudah, then they were going to take Brown. I mean, it's silly season, and until 2 days ago, Gettleman was going to take Simmons, and now he's going to take an offensive lineman. So we really don't know what's going to happen here, but we know he likes hog mollies and offensive linemen. Kind of when you look at the trajectory of what he's doing there, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, got to get somebody in front of him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
John, finish your thought.
No, I think this is where it gets interesting. Like Julian and Eugene said, whatever Dave likes to do here in terms of his next pick, I know they're on the clock right now, will dictate a lot coming up here in the next few picks. If Isaiah is not the guy, there's good potential he's going to be there at 7. But again, we talked about Okudah going to Detroit. It's a great scheme fit for them. It's a great scheme fit for anybody, really. But I think he's going to do a great job for Matt Patricia and that defense. I'll say this, back to Eugene's point about Washington real quick. Remember the 2nd overall pick in the 2002 draft, right? Julius Peppers and what he did for that defense.
So similar. Yeah.
And, the quarterback that was taken before, I believe, was Derek Carr, and then there was a Harrington pick after that. So cautionary tale about these first-round quarterbacks. They're all built differently, but, it's a dangerous proposition for some of these guys.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Go ahead, Julian.
I mean, it's one that you talk about the quarterbacks and bring the great comparison to 2002. I mean, you talk about quarterbacks and just teams and thinking like they got to get that franchise guy. And for Cincinnati, they're coming off a franchise guy in Andy Dalton, who personally for me, I felt like they could have just kept Andy Dalton and gone with Chase Young, who was going to probably have a bigger impact in the NFL than Joe Burrow is going to have, and they would have been fine. I'm still we talk about Cam Newton being out in the market. Well, how is Andy Dalton not somewhere like in New England or maybe in Los Angeles, the Chargers, trying to be a starting quarterback. I think he'd be a better option than Tyrod Taylor. Not taking anything away from Tyrod, because it's still the same guy who got the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs for the first time, 19 years, a couple of years ago, and he kind of got the short end of the stick there in Buffalo. It's just weird to me that I would rather have a guy like a defensive end than a quarterback, especially when I have a dude who I know can play quarterback. Might not be able to get me to the level I want to get to as an organization. I just think they've taken a major risk by trying to draft Joe Burrow instead of going Chase Young, who I think all of us think is going to be a fantastic player. Now, we could all be wrong. He could be a massive bust, but I feel like the bust potential for a quarterback, the bust potential for a quarterback is far greater than it is for a defensive end.
All right, Scotty says that he wants the Panthers to make that trade, and I know we've got a lot of people on here who agree. Eugene, tell me about Dave Gettleman. He's about 5 minutes away from making another pick for the Giants, his third first-round pick for the Giants, I believe. Does he get too much of a bad rap? Do we make too much of a caricature out of him? And could that end up, as some have suggested in the last few weeks, cause people even in the league to underestimate him a little bit?
I'm sorry, you broke up for me. Who are you
sure.
talking about?
Just tell me about Dave Gettleman, and has he gotten too bad of a rap since he's been with the Giants, or is some of it deserved?
I think being in that position as GM, the buck always starts with you. You know, in a draft, you're going to always have some good decisions and some ones that stink. You're going to have some controversial stuff like Josh Norman. You're going to have some stuff that stinks, and you got to be able to weather the hurry. Every GM goes through the exact same thing. But what you have to be is confident in your ability as you're watching the film, evaluating talent, and you got to trust your gut. That's part of the landscape. Coach Gettleman knows that's part of the landscape, that you're going to get some of that glory and you're going to get the butt of it too. That's part of the deal. So you know it going in, that's the deal.
3 minutes to go before he makes this first-round pick. Julian,
Dave will use every second, Nick. He'll use every last second of it too.
Julian, who would you hate to see Dave Gettleman pick here?
Isaiah Simmons.
I
made it very clear. Look, I want Isaiah Simmons. I think the best thing to do is to trade out, but that does not dispel the fact that I want Isaiah Simmons to be a Carolina Panther.
So your hopes for this draft ride on the fingertips of David Gettleman at his keyboard. How you feeling about that, John?
That is nuts. That's not just consider. Where are we now? Look at 2020, where we are. A year ago, if you told me Cam Newton would be unemployed during draft night, Baylor's head coach would be running Carolina, Dave Gettleman would be kind of holding the destiny card for what Carolina does next. It's a nutty offseason. It just got nuttier.
Should we read into the comments from Gettleman a couple days ago that offensive lineman was such a big need, or is he playing a little game there?
I think he's playing games. I really like what Brandon Beane said, dude. I don't know what outlet he was on, but he's like, Dave wants everybody to think that he's dumb.
Exactly.
They want him to think that he doesn't know how to use a computer, that he needs all these computer and IT guys to help him out. That's what he wants. He wants to give out the illusion that he has no idea what he's doing.
He's a sharp man.
He is.
And
people don't give Gettleman enough credit for what he did here in Carolina. I understand that maybe his bedside manner, the way he treated people, and I never interacted with Dave personally. Eugene can speak far more onto this than I can. That maybe it wasn't what we're used to down here in the South, and especially with Jared Richardson owning the organization and how he wanted to conduct business. But this is the same man who got the Panthers to the playoffs and conducted that roster that went 7-8-1 and made it, and even got to the divisional round in Seattle. It's the same roster that he built that went 15-1. Now, yes, he inherited Cam Newton and Luke Kuechly, but he still brought some veteran guys like Peanut Tillman and Roman Harper to help out, and was able to build some of the players and put them around Cam Newton to where they had that season that was matchable when we went 15-1. So you cannot discredit what he's done. Now, yeah, Gettleman might say some things that make you think, this guy really know what he's doing. No, Dave's a smart guy, that's for sure. And I'm very interested to see what he does here at 4. He's a wild card.
How nervous are you guys about what the Giants are about to do?
Because I don't know what they're going to do. They might mess up my pick. leave Simmons alone.
I have a gut feeling they're going to go with Wills or worse. Sorry,
you're saying they're going offensive line?
I was saying, John, if they do pick up Simmons, then does that mean it's likely to go ahead and you think about trading now?
Yeah, I think that's where you're at that fight. To me, if I'm the GM, and again, I'm not, I'm just a guy, but if I'm at 7 and the guys that I wanted were Okudah and Simmons, and if they're gone, I think value-wise, that's where you start to look at moving back getting the BPA in the mid-teens or maybe even further back and picking up as many picks as you can in this draft. That's just my opinion.
And the thing is, John, too, when you look at it, if you're going to have defensive tackles sitting there at 7 with Derek Brown, that's your only option of the 3 guys that we spent most of the draft season, we spent most of this chat talking about. You could just trade back. But maybe if Miami does at 5, get an offensive lineman, and they want to trade back at 7 to pick Tua, if Los Angeles doesn't take him at 6, then you're in a situation where you have a 12 and 9 or whatever it is, and then you can draft a Javon Kinlaw who could give you the same kind of value right there in the mid-round and be the same kind of player who also wrecked the SEC this past fall like Derek Brown, but he actually might be a little bit more versatile where he can play inside, but also potentially move out to the outside at the end in the edge position. So I would kind of rather see that if that's going to be the way that they look at it in terms of Derek Brown's going to be sitting there at 7. Why not try and get Kinlaw and then maybe get a wide receiver or another guy in the secondary like a CJ Henderson if he's still sitting there.
Yeah. Dave Gettleman removed the picture of Charlotte from his wall, by the way.
That's a good.
Is the bottle of lotion still there?
Moving on.
Julian. I think just to bring that up too, trade value. Now you look back at what the Browns did with the Julio Jones. They had the number 6, and Atlanta came in there and gave up 26 that year, and they gave up the 59th pick and then the 124th pick, and then they gave up the 22nd pick the following year. But again, I don't know if there's a Julio Jones sitting there if Simmons is gone for that value. So again, that's a pretty good trade comp to look at as far as if Carolina trades back, how much they might be able to get in return. I just don't know. Andrew Thomas. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
All right, folks. So you're feeling good about that, I would imagine, Julian.
Yeah, because they're trying to protect that quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good move. Andrew Thomas is a mountain of a man, and any sort of Georgia offensive lineman is somebody you would want. Like if Cam Newton was still on this roster, the Panthers legitimately believe that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be their franchise quarterback. That's kind of the guy I would like to see the Panthers trying to maneuver their way to get, because that dude is going to be protecting Daniel Jones blindside for a long time up there in New York, assuming Daniel Jones works out and also he stays healthy. I feel good right now.
Any worries that Miami and LA will screw this up for the Panthers if they really want Simmons?
I can't see it.
I can't. I don't know.
It's not what they need.
Well, now you got Simmons or Tua. I mean, now you're talking this situation again about Tua. Because if they go in the Simmons direction, I don't think San Diego takes Simmons. I think they're locked in on Herbert, but they may not be. Who knows? I think one of those two teams does not pick a quarterback, then it's Tua's in play. And
I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers just went off the board and went Isaiah Simmons. If they're just like, you know what, let's ride with Tyrod for this year and let's try and win. Or Cam. If that's the thing, if you add a Cam Newton, what makes more like you add Cam, you get Isaiah Simmons and add him to that defense already with Melvin Ingram and with Joey, with Nick Bosa, whatever Bosa they got over there. Like I would feel pretty good about that team because they're already set up to compete. Like, last year we're going to 5-11, whatever it was more of an anomaly of what they've been the last couple of years. Phillip Rivers kind of over the hill there, bringing a Cam Newton or stick with Tyrod. You add Isaiah Simmons to that defense. The Chargers would have a chance to at least be right there with Kansas City contending for the AFC West division crown.
Eugene, where do you see in your gut, where do you see Cam Newton ended up in 2020?
I don't know where he's going to end up, but I tell you one thing, coming off the season that he had the last couple of years and then also being released, it's in your mouth, and you cannot wait to get to any team and let everybody know that you're the truth and that you're the real deal. I mean, he is going to be bent on letting everybody know that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you just – typically what happens when you leave a team or you get traded from a team, you want to prove to everyone that, look, you made a mistake, and I want you to know that you made a mistake. And I'm going to play so good, so well, made a mistake. That's what the mentality of most guys when you leave a team.
Yeah, and that's the reason why the Chargers need to sign him. When you're looking at the AFC West now, that division is going to be ruled by Pat Mahomes, just like the AFC East has been ruled by Tom Brady for the last 20 years. You got to find a quarterback right now if you want to be able to win. Getting a Justin Herbert, I like Justin Herbert. I love his story. The kid who grew up in Eugene, walking to Oregon games, only dreamed of wearing the uniform, never even cared whether he played. He just wanted to be at Oregon. Now the fact he's going to be a first-round pick, that's awesome. How much success he's going to have in the league, I don't think it's going to be that much. But if you're the Chargers in that division with Pat Mahomes who's going to be there for the next 15, 20 years, you probably want to identify a quarterback right now. And the best guy out there for you, it's not Tua, it's not Herbert, it's Cam Newton. and you just add in what Eugene just said about a pissed off Cam, ready to go scorched earth on the NFL and show them, hey, the Panthers should have never let go of me. You guys doubt me. You don't think I'm one of the best players in the league still? Okay, I'll show you.
Quick Twitter update here. Charles
Yes,
Johnson
sir.
chimes in. Charles Johnson chiming in. LOL, what is Dave Gettleman doing?
I don't know. I mean,
Protecting his
they
quarterback?
do need a tackle.
So, I like Charles, but I think Charles is thinking defense there. Yeah, I think they were enamored with these tackles. He's a defender.
He's a defensive player. I get it. He's a defensive player.
I love Charles, man. I think they were really enamored with these offensive tackles, Wills, Wirfs, all of them, and I think it's a pretty obvious choice. I was not surprised they were going in that direction.
There's Thomas Davis reacting to the Redskins' number 2 pick. Thomas Davis welcoming Chase Young to Ron Rivera's Redskins. That is about as 2020 as it gets right now from a football perspective. What do we think the Dolphins are going to do? Go ahead, Eugene.
Well, one, I'm thinking the reason why Coach Rivera picked up Thomas Davis, because you want that type of presence in the locker room. Thomas Davis can walk in, know anyone, and everybody will go rally around him. He's such an imposing force. And now you bring in Chase Young. Man, Chase Young, he's gonna have and tell him, yeah, go ahead and eat, young man. You got to go ahead and eat. This is where you eat at right now. I'm telling you, it's a great pick by Coach Rivera, building that little chemistry, what you got to have to go ahead and make things.
Yeah, that might end up being a tough matchup for the Panthers this year. That could be a tough afternoon. It could be a lot of tough afternoons.
Let's see what
anybody have any. I mean, what are the Dolphins looking at? Tua or offensive line at this point?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe Simmons. But
the rumors have been maybe they'll go get an offensive lineman at 5 and then try and trade back in potentially at 7, which would be great for the Panthers. Try and trade back, get 2 first-round picks, especially just when we're talking about value and trying to fill some of those needs defensively. If I'm Miami, they created a hashtag tank for Tua. I mean, we did it as like the media and the public did that, but they tried to tank this roster to go and get this guy. And he's been down there working out in Miami. It makes all the sense in the world to just not even make the same mistake. Because John brought up 2002 with Derek Carr go number 1 overall, and then the best player in the draft ended up being Julius Peppers. Did they want to make the same mistake that they made with Drew Brees, where they were worried about his shoulder injury and they bypassed him, and now Drew Brees is going to be a Hall of Famer still playing in the league, has won a Super Bowl? You want to make that same mistake twice when Tua Tagovailoa, when he's healthy, is the best quarterback far and away in this draft class? I don't think they want to do that. I would take the risk. I'd rather risk it at getting Tua opposed to try and play it safe and get the 5th pick, or then trying to give up some of the value assets that I have to try and trade back at 7, or he might not be there if Los Angeles takes him instead.
All right. So reaction on Twitter: Panthers are going to draft Derek Brown in an effort to get back some of the Auburn fans they lost when they released Cam Newton. Or they could draft their very first Clemson player of all time, which is kind of insane to think about. And I don't want that to be a 7th round pick. It'd be more fitting.
And Clemson Tigers, they travel, man. They travel and they support their people.
Yeah, they do. There's not really a large Auburn alumni base here. Like if we were in Atlanta, then sure, make that point. I don't think.
I hope that's nowhere on Marty's radar. I hope to God. I hope
Tua just came off the board.
Tua to Miami.
Tua is off the board.
Okay.
All right. This is shaping up. Besides the Okudah pick, the last 2 picks have kind of gone the Panthers' way. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on San Diego. I still think Herbert would be the fairly obvious pick there, but I think if they go Herbert, then Simmons is staring you right in the face, and then what do? Do you value him that much as that day 1 impact safety that Eugene talked about, or are you still tempted to get that additional pick or 2 or 3 and then move back? It'll be fascinating, but maybe San Diego. I keep saying San Diego, Los Angeles. I don't think with Derwin James in the mix. I know with Derwin James in the mix, I don't think there's a really positional fit or needs for Simmons. So I think Simmons will be there.
Let me reset here. You are watching the NFL Draft live chat here on WCNC Charlotte. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, the WCNC Charlotte app, and on YouTube as well. I've got Julian Council with me, John Ellis from One Panther Place, our own Eugene Robinson, former NFL safety and co-host of Charlotte Today. We are 2 picks away from the Carolina Panthers. The LA Chargers are on the clock. So far, we think it's gone the Panthers' way, with the exception of the Detroit Lions taking Jeff Okudah at number 3, a cornerback that would have been a great addition to the Panthers defense. Eugene, when you look at this defense, what does it need more? Somebody to affect the quarterback up front or somebody to affect the quarterback in the third level?
Yeah, I think you definitely need another corner. I mean, we don't realize how good James Bradbury was. James Bradbury is very, very long and receivers and making it very difficult for them. Dante Jackson, on the other hand, I really believe that Dante, if he gets his head in there right, that dude could be really, really good. I said, dude, you're relying on speed, but if you just do technique and with your speed, you will just crush people. And the reason why you can get away with some of the things you're doing is because you're fast enough to do it. Learn the academics of football. Football will carry a long way with your talent. And I'm hoping that will emerge for him because he could be a shutdown corner. He really is that good. I hope I thought that you have to add another corner or another safety. I'm a secondary guy, and I'm just saying, if you want to have a huge impact, safeties, you make major everybody's at. You have to know the offense, the defense, and you got to be able to tell people where to go, and then you have the chance to make fumbles, interceptions, sacks. You get to do all of it.
And Isaiah Simmons can certainly fill that role, as you said, Eugene. John,
and that's why Isaiah Simmons. That's why I'm excited about him. I'm like, dude, that dude. I would play him at safety, not linebacker. He would be my safety immediate.
John, we see the comp with Justin Herbert, who we think may go to the LA Chargers right now at 6th overall. We see it with Josh Allen. Who does he remind you of?
Josh Allen. I mean, that's the comp I would go with. A tremendous rocket of an arm and a lot of strength, some versatility, some good pocket mobility and ability to extend the play. I like Herbert. I just don't like him this soon. I think he is a mid-first rounder. I think it's a reach right here. And I wouldn't rule out, I don't know where they are on the clock right now, 3 minutes left to go. I think they could still possibly go. They could still go offensive tackle. There's 3 really good tackles sitting right there. And that's a possibility. They do have Trey Turner, but they dealt Russell Okung away, and there is a void there.
Okay, Julian, if that's the case, you felt the Panthers should take a look at Tua. I don't think you're going to say the same about Justin Herbert.
No, and like I said before, I like Justin Herbert. Love his story of a kid growing up with Eugene, walking the games, and then going through 3 coaching changes there. Mark Helfrich, then having Willie Taggart, then having Mario Cristobal. They were 4-8 his freshman year. Then this final year, they go 12-2 and win the Rose Bowl, win the Pac-12 championship. I think that's an awesome story for him. I just don't think, if he's sitting there at 7, that's the guy the Carolina Panthers need to draft. Hopefully, maybe he goes to the Chargers, which is a solid organization, which will give him time under Tyrod Taylor to wait and become the quarterback of the future for them. Because he's not a guy that you want to start from day one. Because even if the Panthers draft him at 7, he's going to sit for 1-2 years behind Teddy Bridgewater, which may actually be the best thing for him. So if you're talking about drafting Justin Herbert, I can kind of get on board with it. That means he sits there for the next 2 years. But then what does that mean in the meantime and trying to build the rest of this roster specifically defensively? Like John brings up the Josh Allen comparison. I totally disagree with that. I think it's fair. Josh Allen didn't achieve anything in college at Wyoming. He didn't play up against the same competition that he was playing up against at Oregon with Justin Herbert. Washington, they have one of the best secondaries in the country year in and year out. Justin Herbert had success against them in back-to-back years, especially this past fall, which I think was his best game he ever played in Oregon jersey outside the Rose Bowl game and a game a couple years ago against Stanford in which they lost in overtime, where he brought them back from double digits down on the road at Husky Stadium, which a lot of people might not know is one of the loudest venues in college football.
Yes, it is.
In a big-time rivalry game, brought them back on the road, kept their season alive to help them take control of the Pac-12 North, which led them to win the Pac-12 North and in the Pac-12. I think Justin Herbert's a guy who might be a quiet leader, but I think he's certainly, if he gets enough time to develop, he can certainly win. And the fact that he had 3 different coaches shows that he can handle some sort of dysfunction within an organization and a franchise. So I kind of have a little bit more belief in Justin Herbert than some other people do have out there. I just think he's going to need 1 or 2 years to sit back there and wait. He has to be in a stable organization if he's going to have any sort of success.
I agree with Lance Zierlein from NFL.com, who made this comp a couple of weeks ago, to Carson Wentz. I think that's a pretty good comparison with Herbert. Maybe not competition level at college, but in terms of his frame, his game, and what he brings to the table. Now, Wentz came right in and worked his way in. Whether Herbert can do that or not remains to be seen. But I think some of the traits remind me a lot of Carson Wentz there.
Hey, we haven't had any major draft glitches, have we? I mean, we all have it on mute, but I haven't seen anything. It's been kind of interesting to watch.
I don't think so. We've been pretty smooth.
Who's
so
had
far.
the best setup so far? All right, Bryce says this draft has my heart beating. I want Isaiah Simmons for the Panthers so bad. Hashtag draft day. Thank you guys. And then the next one, please don't let the Panthers get Isaiah Simmons. I don't think the split is 50-50 though, right, Eugene? I think a lot of fans will be happy to get Isaiah Simmons.
My internet connection stinks right now. Go ahead and say it again.
The tweets were split on Isaiah Simmons, but I think the fans mostly would be happy with Isaiah Simmons in Carolina.
Absolutely. If you get Isaiah Simmons, don't forget Clemson fans travel. You're putting some fans in the seats. Oh, here the pick's about to happen for the Chargers.
You guys are a little ahead of me, so let me know.
They picked up Justin Herbert, Julian.
Justin Herbert.
All right. So the Panthers are on the clock. So it's either Simmons, Brown, and I think let's say it's either Simmons or a trade. John, what does the trade have to look like?
Well, like we talked about the comps before from the trade, if somebody's really, really high on Simmons like they were Julio Jones a few years ago, it's got to look like a number one next year, the number one from this year, and then a couple mid-round picks in between. I think that's the comp they'd be looking for, I would think. But is there enough teams out there that covet Simmons the way they coveted Julio Jones in that 6th spot back in 2011? I don't know. I think they're going to go Simmons here. That's my gut, but that's what I would do. I said all along, if Okudah Simmons were still there at 7, I would keep the pick and go in that direction. But Marty and Matt and Dave are running the show here. We'll see what they do.
Julian, if it's up to you, go ahead, Eugene.
Luke Kuechly was such an imposing presence that was in the middle who controlled so much stuff. And losing Luke Kuechly, I think that you add somebody that's almost comparable with the ability, smart, make plays on the ball. Don't forget, Luke Kuechly became a better pass defender as he grew in that position at middle linebacker. He started out as a strong side backer, moved him to middle linebacker, and that was his. I will move him from linebacker to safety immediately because I think he has the best chance to go ahead and really affect change.
Before we dive into Simmons more, Julian, I want to know from you: are you entertaining any trade on? I mean, if somebody blows you away, what would it have to look like to not pick Simmons here and take a trade back?
Oh, you got to get 2 first-round picks, and you got to get a pick in the second, I think. 2 first and a second or a third. Like that's the only way I'm not taking Isaiah Simmons right here if I'm the Carolina Panthers. Again, in terms of roster building, the right decision would probably be to move out of this. But in terms of getting a dude who can play at all 3 levels of the defense, and as Eugene pointed out, it's not Clemson fans. It's not just that they travel; they're already here in Charlotte. Like they're already Panthers fans, and he's going to be day one of the favorite players in the Carolina Panthers organization if he comes here just based off the Clemson people here in the Charlotte area and across the Carolinas. So it's got to be 2 firsts and a second or a third if I'm going to be the Carolina Panthers and trade out and not take Isaiah Simmons here. I think they have to take
if somebody's trading up for that, John, who are they hunting for besides Simmons himself?
I think it'd be Simmons. Obviously, I don't know if there's anybody else on the board that would justify that move up. Maybe one of the offensive linemen. Maybe I think that would be the guy. Somebody would be enamored. Maybe it's Atlanta. Who knows? I mean, they have a Keanu Neal back there. I'm not sure that's someone they would need to plug in beside him. But there are teams out there that could look for Simmons. I don't know if it's going to justify a trade for anybody else other than Isaiah at this point.
I mean, it sounds like you guys are saying drafting Brown over Simmons here is absolutely the wrong choice.
Yes.
Given what you know, why.
Quick update: the pick is in, so they didn't trade it. Looks like
okay. So the Panthers will pick 7th overall, which will mean I get to get ready for the 11 o'clock news on time, which I was sweating just a little bit, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, things have actually been kind of tame here the first 6 or 7. Now we'll see what happens here. Obviously, the pick's already in, but things have been pretty tame so far early in the first round. But I would say the right thing to do is draft Simmons just because he gives you more versatility than Derek Brown. Because Derek Brown, he's going to clog the gap. He's also going to provide pressure up the middle, which when you're talking about quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Drew Brees, where they struggle is when guys are able to get pressure inside that pocket where they can't step in. So that would be one of the values that he brings, but I don't think he brings too much as much to the table as Isaiah Simmons would for this defense, and especially when we talk about positionless football, which Matt Rule's been preaching since day one when he was.
I think of Isaiah Simmons just like I think of Christian McCaffrey. So versatile. He's a running back. He's a receiver. He does everything. You put him in the backfield, you find ways to get with Christian McCaffrey the ball. And in that secondary or that linebacker, you move him up and back and forth at the corner in the slot. You move him there, he's going to make plays for you.
Now, I'll simplify it. If Simmons is not the pick here, I'll be disappointed. I'll simplify it at that point. I like Brown, but I think that has to be, if it's not a trade, which it's not going to be, that's the only pick right
now.
Well,
I'm looking on Twitter, and Jordan Rodriguez tweeted out 3 minutes ago that a source is telling her the Panthers are taking Derek Brown at 7.
Wow.
And if that's the case,
the source is saying what?
Derek Brown.
Yeah, Jordan Rodriguez, the Athletic, is just tweeted out 3 minutes ago.
Spoiler alert, Jordan. Wow.
So we'll see. That's a source. The source could be wrong.
Fingers
crossed, the source is wrong.
Jordan's pretty good there.
I know.
All right, let me hold on to the Isaiah Simmons dream for one more second, Eugene. If Isaiah said, we saw Thomas Davis's role change over the years. What is Isaiah Simmons in his first iteration in year one with the Panthers, specifically with Shaq Thompson on the field at the same time?
This is the beauty about it. The fact that you got Shaq, because Shaq is almost like a safety too, if you will. Conceivably put Shaq at the middle linebacker spot? Could you do that like you had with John Beeson? Is he that guy, or do you need somebody else to go and do that? But now you have a guy who can drop down from the second, give you that extra thing you need on third down, second and long, 3rd and 7+, all those really critical downs. You got a guy like Simmons in there. Wow. And a Shaq on the field at the same time. That's a lot of.
Okay. I mean, if it seems so obvious to pick Simmons, John, why would the Panthers, does it have more to do with Brown, what they think of Brown, or what they think of Simmons?
I think it has more to do with what they think of Brown. I think obviously they like his traits inside. They like his ability to play along the line, 3 technique, and play outside as well at times. He's a disruptive force. Like I said, I like the guy a lot. He did not test well at the combine. Eugene can speak to that too. Those things can sometimes be a little bit misleading. I like him a lot. I think he could be an impactful player. I've heard Pat Kerwin say, who's a very respected personnel guy on the radio, say there are some Reggie White traits about him, some flashes of Reggie White at times. Again, Simmons, to me, just on tape, I hate to let a guy like that go because he could have transcended that secondary. But Derek Brown, a very solid interior lineman.
I'm kind of mourning right now.
If you pick Derek Brown, that means that you could possibly go into a 4-3 defense as opposed to a 3-4.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You have to have him and KK out there at the same time, both inside.
Yes.
Julian, are you going to be okay?
No. Yeah, I'll be fine. Look, Derek Brown was a great player last year. Like that Auburn defense, I don't think the people gave them enough credit for how good they were. Another Auburn guy people have really talked about potentially for Carolina's second round, the cornerback Noah Igbenogany would be an awesome pick. That was the only defense when you look at LSU last year that LSU struggled against. I think they held them to 23 points in that game down in Baton Rouge. Everyone else, whether it's Clemson or Oklahoma doesn't have a good defense, it was Clemson or Alabama, they couldn't mess with the LSU offense. But Derek Brown and that Auburn Tigers defense, Marlon Davidson, they were really good last year, and he's a guy who's probably the second best player in the SEC all of last season. And Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN even said he's probably one of the top 5 players in this draft. He said that all along. I don't hate the pick. I think he's a good player. I think the Panthers got a good player at a position of need. I just think when you talk about versatility, the guy that was probably going to provide more of this defense was Isaiah Simmons. But we'll see how things play out. Hopefully, if this is the correct pick, Marty Hurney, as we've known as general manager of the Carolina Panthers, has nailed the first-round pick. So, in all likelihood, based off of Hurney's track record, Derek Brown's going to be an excellent ball player here for the Carolina Panthers.
It's Derek Brown, gentlemen.
There's the pick.
Derek Brown.
Eugene, what does he
pick
bring?
Is in.
What can he do right away alongside KK Short under a new defensive coordinator and Phil Snow?
Rush the passer and stop the run. The biggest thing that we did last year, we were able to rush the passer. We had over 50-something sacks. However, we couldn't stop the run. And now when you bring in a big body, you're bent. That's the need. And that's why you got Coach Snow picking that guy right there. That's the need. So I get that. I get that stopping the run. You have to do that up front because we have too many gaps into that interior defensive line.
Yeah, just Derek Brown just recently became a father, known as a great leader at Auburn, both in the locker room and on campus. Does that, have any sway with you, Julian or John, that, he's a guy that can step right in and if he's got a strong enough voice, take leadership right away on a really young, unproven defense?
I think
good.
I think it's good that he has KK Short right there in the same position group playing next to him. Certainly, he has more maturity than you're going to see from those guys based off of not just having a kid, but also last year, he's the guy who could have came out and potentially been a first-round pick, but he felt like it was best for him to finish his education at Auburn and continue to learn to be coached by some of those guys at Auburn University. Again, as I said earlier, guys like Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Teddy Bridgewater, Shaq Thompson, Trey Boston, those are in KK Short. Those are going to be the leaders. But maybe he could have a voice, especially maybe second half of the season if he proves to be a guy that comes in from day one and plays hard and plays well and fits in that defensive tackle spot in that 4-3 next to KK.
You got him from the 3 technique, 2-1-0 technique. I can put him anywhere on that line, whether he's on the guard, the center, doesn't matter, or put him in on the edge. And he's going to have change because he's so powerful. 320 there. And I'm watching him right now. They show some highlights on him.
Yeah.
He's taking 2 guys and driving them back to the quarterback. So that's what you like. Even though they show the run, he's able to stop the run. I know some stopping the charge, establish the offensive line a yard back on the other side of the offensive line, making plays. And so that's what you get. That just tells me maybe the Carolina Panthers maybe going back to a 4-3.
Well, Eugene, to your point, too, I think Phil Snow, one thing he played a lot of early on at Temple and Baylor was a lot of 43 under. And that's something Seattle run for a long time. And I think he can play along that front, odd, even, wherever it needs to be in a 43 alignment. He can even line up in a 34 alignment where he needs to. Of course, nickel's going to be the primary defense in this division, I think. So he can fit right in and get that penetration he needs at the 3 technique, maybe even outside of times. Look, it's a good pick. It's a solid defensive tackle who can do a lot of things. And I think moving forward, you got to really study this guy's strengths. The punch move, man, the punch right off the line, Eugene, man, it's something else.
Yep. Hey, he's represented by Drew Rosenhaus, so Marty Hurney better get his wallet ready for that second contract.
Oh, boy.
I know. And don't forget, you get back KK Short. People underestimate KK Short is one of the best defensive tackles in the – I've watched that young man just grow into that position. I'm like, dude, you've really established yourself as being a guy. Unfortunately, he got hurt last year, but he really was a guy that you bring him back in the mix. I think of 1 technique and a 2 technique and putting in work.
Yep. Who benefits most right now is Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. John, you kind of just alluded to it. How will we know? I mean, he's not an edge rusher. He's not a cornerback that's going to rack up picks. How will we know fairly soon during the season if Derek Brown was the right guy for 7th overall?
Well, you never know right away, Nick. I mean, this is going to be a kind of a thing I look at, 2-3 years down the road, how the production looks. But right off the bat, he'll come in and he'll contribute. And he should be a day 1 starter. There's no question about that, especially if they go back to a base 43 alignment where they punch him into that 3 technique and they can even move him around along those odd, even fronts. I have no doubt he'll come in and perform at a high level. I don't know if it's the defensive guy at that particular pick with Isaiah available that I would take, but I don't hate the guy at all. I think it's a great opportunity to give Brian Burns some free releases there on the edge and get him some extra production, assuming he gets his snap count up, which I'm assuming that will happen.
And Arizona, did they just pounce all over Isaiah Simmons right now?
Yes, they certainly
did. They sure
Julian,
did.
where does this rank for you in Charlotte draft night disappointments?
Oh, well, there will never be anything that ranks up there with the lottery night back in 2012 when the Hornets did not, or the Bobcats back then, did not get Anthony Davis. So, no, look, we got a high character guy here coming to Carolina, Derek Brown. He's a heck of a player. We can talk about all the accolades that he had in the SEC. He's going to step in day 1 next KK Short. And hopefully if things work out, we're talking about next season, that we have probably the best interior duo in the National Football League, if not one of the top 3 in the National Football League. So that's exactly what we want to see. Day 1, run defense, that should be fixed. Now, of course, that's also going to depend on the linebackers, where they can fit the gap. I think Shaq has ability to do that. Here, Whitehead certainly has always been good against the run. More of the questions with him are how good is he in pass coverage. And then Jermaine Carter Jr., we'll see as the draft keeps moving forward the next couple of days. We'll see if Jermaine Carter Jr. is going to be the guy out there in the other linebacker position who's also out there trying to fit the gap. So I think right now, run defense should be fixed. We saw last year that they were able to get after the passer. Now they've lost some of the guys that were on the roster last year. Mario Addison, namely, they've lost Bruce Irvin and certainly some of the other guys in interior and Gerald McCoy. But they should still be able to get after the passer. Just my now main concern is, which was already the main concern, with Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Matt Ryan in this division, who the heck is going to be out there on the outside stopping some of those top receivers on the Buccaneers, on the Falcons?
You might have to wait. You might have to wait a few years.
Yeah. Hey, Eugene, real quick, I want to get your take on this because you covered the 2003 Panthers and you were right in the middle. I know the game has changed since then, and the DBs can't do what they used to. But you had a Reggie Howard, you had a Terry Cousin. But where did it all start? The front, the pressure, right?
Always.
And as a DB, you've got Dante, and hopefully they'll add some pieces as they go along there. How does that benefit those guys back there like Dante and Trey?
When you know that you got guys up front like that, you got KK Short, you just picked up this other big young man who's a beast. Your corners just got better. Your secondary just got that much better because now the quarterback typically you get 3.2 seconds to throw the ball. You throw the ball 3.2 seconds, you're pretty good. Anything after the 3 seconds, with the rush that we're able to get on the outside with Burns and crew and having push up the middle. Remember when KK Short got all those sacks? You had another big guy on the other side getting push up the middle, and you were able to stop that much easier. The quarterback's throwing off his back foot. The quarterback's throwing the ball a lot sooner than he wants to throw the ball. And so you cause a lot of havoc. So rush plus coverage. Whenever you got a good rush, you're going to have great coverage.
All right, Marco says, I'm done with the Panthers. Can't stand the Derek Brown pick. Let's wrap it up here, guys, and great job as always. Going forward, John, what do you want to see the Panthers do starting tomorrow night in rounds 2 and 3?
Well, obviously, they've got their stalwart on the inside, so that takes my mock draft apart because I had Davidson going second round, but I think they've got an opportunity here to address some key positions there. You still got guys like Jeff Gladney, some other corners out there that might be available within that range. I don't know if Gladney will slip to them, but they need to address the perimeter of that particular side of the ball. And I think, again, you always look when you're trying to rebuild a team, which is what they're doing, get the best guys on the board, whoever it is. If it's a wide receiver available, if you've got somebody available in terms of even a Jalen Hurts, maybe, there's a wild card there that they could possibly look at. Get the best players, best athletes you can, put them together. I think eventually they'll draft a corner and they'll draft a safety.
Julian, what do you want to see going forward?
I would love for them to be able to get back in the first round, but I just don't think that they have the necessary assets this year or really in years past that you want to give up to make that happen, which is why, I've been talking about 7 trying to get out of that when it made a lot of sense just in terms of value. But for me, if their next pick's not until the second round, it's got to be a cornerback. It's got to be an A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. Since they passed and getting Clemson player and Isaiah Simmons, the wait still continues on the Carolina Panthers never drafting a Clemson player, either A.J. Terrell or a Noah Igbenogany, another Auburn guy who played in that same defense with Derek Brown. That's what I would be looking at for the Carolina Panthers. They got to find an answer there. For a guy to hopefully be a number 1 or I guess a 1A, a 2. I have no idea. They got to find somebody to play corner opposite of Dante Jackson.
Eugene, I'm sure you're going to want to see him get somebody to affect the quarterback in the secondary at some point, right? Probably soon.
Corner too. It's important that your corners one of the most important positions on the field. And I know that Dante is really – I really believe in Dante Jackson. He has a lot of – you got to have continuity. You got to have a guy who you can trust in coverage, whether we're playing zone or whether we're playing man. You got to be able to trust that guy in coverage. And so I don't think that guy has emerged on this team yet. I would want to get another corner in here or try to trade for somebody.
All right, I'll start with Eugene. Just a quick letter grade on the Derek Brown pick, Eugene, and then we're going to wrap it up. What do you got?
I would say that's a B.
Okay, John?
No doubt. Him and Duke can play.
B.
He's SEC player of the year, dude.
Yeah. I give it a B. I mean, I think, again, Okudah wasn't there. Simmons was there. I would have gone Simmons, but I like Brown a lot. I think they still could have traded back and gotten some good value. But again, we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. I'll give it a B.
All right. Yeah, we're not getting a lot of good reaction for picking Brown over Simmons on Twitter. Julian, what's your grade on that?
I'll give it an A. I mean, he was the best player.
They don't realize about the run game. The run game was the thing that suffered. Everybody was complaining about the run game, and now the Panthers just addressed the run game, and now you're upset.
Exactly. Like last year, everyone wanted to see them address the pass rush, which they did with Brian Burns, who 7.5 sacks in his rookie year. Didn't get the snap count you would have liked to see, but that was also based off of the wrist injury. And then, later on with the new coaching staff towards the end after Ron Rivera was fired, not giving him the kind of reps that he should have had. But we're looking at this, like Eugene just said, run defense instantly is solved right now. Obviously, it's going to fall back on the linebackers to fill the gaps. But right now, those two guys in the interior, and KK and Derek Brown, they are going to fix that problem if they stay healthy. So I give this an A. He's the best player at his position in the draft. It was a position of need. I give it an A. I would have rather seen them go out there and get Isaiah Simmons just because of the flexibility. But there's nothing wrong with the Carolina Panthers drafting Derek Brown.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching at home. Jackson, he did like the pick, so we'll end on a positive note. We're hopefully going to get to meet Derek Brown virtually here tonight and have coverage tonight at 11 o'clock on WCNC Charlotte. To Julian, to John, to Eugene, to James and Hank running the show at home and all the graphics and stuff. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you on the flip side. Enjoy the rest of the draft.
Bye, John. Julian, take care, dog.
Love you guys. See you guys.